You killed those guys in prison?
No, they didn't die. I just slit their throats.
Welcome back to Other People's Lives. I'm Joe Santagato.
I'm Greg Dybec.
For anyone out there that would like to be a guest on our show, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our podcast, our email podcast is oplpodcast@gmail.com.
All right, so this episode is a little different for us. We are currently on the line with the guest. We are speaking to someone who is calling us from a prison right now. It's Wallens Ridge Prison in Virginia. We're speaking with Randy. We are connected to him through a mutual acquaintance, and really, just being honest with you, all we know right now is that Randy is currently serving 1,214 years in prison for murder. So we have Randy on the line. We appreciate him coming on to share his story, and we're going to kind of learn this along with you guys. Have a bunch of questions along the way, but first of all, Randy, thanks so much for being on today.
Thank you both for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I am reading here, you're incarcerated in a level 6 super max prison. I guess before we kind of get into your story, can you just kind of paint the current environment? What exactly is a level 6 super max prison? And, what are your surroundings right now as we speak to you?
My surroundings are concrete and steel. That's it. Painted blue and white. It's a harsh environment. It's heavily guarded. It's heavily monitored. There's cameras everywhere. You have guns pointed at you pretty much 24/7. And it's a violent environment. A level 6, which in Virginia is a supermax prison. It's according to the DOC website and so on and so forth, it houses the worst of Virginia inmates, the guys who stab people in prison, the guys who assault guards, the guys who rape other inmates, guys who just constantly fighting and catching charges and don't get along with others. We're all housed up here. And I've been housed between here and Wallens Ridge and Red Onion State Prison 22, 23 years, give or take.
Oh, so you're 23 years into this sentence already?
I'm 25 years into my sentence in a few months.
Wow. And can you just kind of talk about, I guess, why you ended up in this prison with as many years that you have to serve?
Yeah, that's not a problem. When I first came into the system, I went to Buckingham Prison, which was a level 3. I did that for receiving. Every time a new inmate comes into the prison system, no matter where you're at in America, you go to what's called a receiving prison first. It's a real prison, but they have a pod or 2 pods or whatever, sometimes an entire building, where the brand new inmates come and they spend time with other new inmates in the system and everything, just so they can kind of get acclimated to the prison environment, acclimated to the rules, and being told what to do, when to do, and how to do it. So I went there from mine. Technically, I wasn't supposed to go to Buckingham. It's just the county jail no longer wanted to house me. They could no longer control me and my anger issues, so they just, in the middle of a snowstorm, in January of 2000, they drove me to Buckingham and just dropped me off outside the gate and said, "He's your problem now," and hauled ass up the road. So I went to more of a real prison than a receiving prison. When I did my receiving there, because of how high my points were, I got sent up here to Wallens Ridge, and in the course of being here at Wallens Ridge, another inmate was running around telling other guys that he was going to move in the cell with me, knock me out, and rape me. So when I heard that, I went out on the rec yard the next morning, and I slit his throat with some razor blades, and I beat his ass. And my cellie jumped in and helped after I'd put in most of the work. And I got kicked off of Wallens Ridge and sent to Red Onion, where I spent 20-some years before getting sent back well, in 2006, I released from Red Onion. I went to Sussex 1, which is in Tidewater, Virginia, and I wound up slitting a child molester's throat April 28th of 2006, and I got sent back to Red Onion, and I've been charge-free ever since, but I still can't get released from a Supermax prison.
You killed those guys in prison?
No, they didn't die. I just slit their throats.
Okay. And I'm assuming, that, like, what is the repercussions for that? Do you add more years to your sentence, and also do you get, like, you're in isolation or something?
Yes, I did. The first time when I slit LA's throat back in November 28th of 2000, I did 5.5 years in solitary before I got released and worked my way through the step-down program there. I think it took me like maybe 8 months or so, and I got transferred to Sussex 1. And when I slit the child molester's throat for being a child molester and proud of it and a snitch and so on and so forth, I got sent back. I did 6.5 years in solitary before getting released, and 3 weeks into population, I got locked back up for another 7 years in solitary for nothing, just based on, the charges I'd committed in the past, and, DOC being somewhat scared of my anger and how I used to lash out when I was younger. So they just locked me up without a charge, no investigation or nothing. So I did a total of 13.5 years in solitary with a 3-week break in the middle of it, basically.
Wow. Can you talk about, like, that experience, like being in solitary for that long?
Well, I cover this subject in my own podcast quite extensively, but it's like being buried alive. You're in this small cell that's about the size of a bathroom. You live inside that cell. You don't get to see the person you're talking to. You don't get a lot of human interaction. Yeah, you talk on the vent. If you're a talkative person, or if there's somebody on the vent with you that's worth talking to. And sad to say, most times there isn't. It drains you. It makes you or it breaks you. Fortunately for me, it made me. I've read every book I could get my hands on. I started to think for myself for the first time in my life. And that's what's wrong with prisoners, period. They don't know how to think for themselves. If they did, they wouldn't do the dumbass stuff that we do to get locked up in the first place. So I had to teach myself how to think. I had to look in that mirror and see who I was. And when I saw that, I realized I don't like that mother in the mirror looking back at me. So I changed. I took that opportunity to do something with it. But even though it made me, it still has harmed me and broken me in certain ways. It's made me paranoid. It's gotten me to the point where, like, I don't trust. I really struggle to trust people. I really struggle to believe in others. It's like being in a pressure cooker for emotions. Everything, after spending so long in solitary, you become so emotional. Everything is just, like, for example, let's say you and your co-host were joking around and you talk a little trash to one another. And you say, oh, man, dude, you a bitch. Like, you said that to me, I'm liable to punch you in your mouth and knock your teeth out. And it's just a normal joke for you guys. It's just a little talking trash. But in here, it's so much more than that, because you're in that environment and you're left with nothing but your thoughts. I did most of my time in solitary with no television, with no radio, with no commissary, with nothing but 2 library books every 2 weeks in my imagination. So, like, it messes with your head. I've seen numerous guys that have to do long-term solitary It literally drives them insane. Like you'll like their first 3 or 4 weeks, you'll talk to them, they're normal, everything is good. You get moved and you come back and you see these people 6, 7 years later, and they're literally driven insane. That's what solitary does to you.
It feels like it's designed to do that almost, but do you feel like it took that experience in solitary for you to be able to look in the mirror and decide that you didn't like the person that you are and make that change? Like, do you think if you didn't end up in solitary, you wouldn't have made the kind of transitions that you've made as a person?
Yes and no. You know, being in solitary, see, solitary is a catch-22. It's good on one hand, it's bad on the other hand. Look, you have to have a place where you can secure someone who doesn't care about human life, who's more than willing to stab inmates, guards. You have to have some place where you can secure them. Otherwise, you just have nothing but blood on the floor. And at that point in time, I was in that mindset. I didn't care about my own life. And if I don't care about my own life, what makes you think I'm going to care about yours? I was in that mindset. So I needed to go to solitary to just have that moment of reflection. But 13 and a half years straight, 17 and a half years total, that's a little too much.
Yeah, that's a ton of time. And just for everyone listening too, I know we're kind of jumping right into it, and the call may end up dropping, and then hopefully Randy's able to call back if it seems like we're just kind of jumping all over the place. But can you just walk us back to sort of the, I guess, beginning? What landed you in prison in the first place? I'm reading in this email that I think you were 11 years old the first time you were incarcerated. So prior to the slitting of the throat of 2 people, like, what got you there in the first place? Can you just talk about, who you were back then and what got you caught up in the system?
Yeah, I grew up in a very, very violent environment. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail. For those of your listeners who want, to more understanding and more background, I've got a podcast called Red Onion Randy. YouTube, Google, Apple, Spotify, all that stuff. All right. I grew up in a really violent environment. I grew up with everybody around me, all the adults around me, telling me I was nothing but a piece of shit, that I was going to wind up in prison or dead by the time I was 18, and this and that, and I was beaten and just, I was broken and abused in so many ways. And I went to a foster home, and this older foster kid, he was 17. I think my brother was nine at the time, and he was bullying my brother. So I grabbed a pool cue and I wore his ass out with it. So I got kicked out of the foster home, and I was sent to the A home, the Attention Home in Charlottesville, Virginia. And it's a co-ed. And while I was there, I was molested, by an older kid there. He raped me. That just, with all of the abuse that I suffered, from my family, the beatings and being cussed at and just told I was nothing and just being poor and having nothing, it just compounded all of that. So one day I tried to commit suicide, and I swallowed some glass. And I was taken to the hospital, and they didn't find nothing wrong with me, and they sent me back. When I got back, I had found out...
You have 1 minute remaining.
I had found out that they had made banana splits, and I wanted one. I'd never had anything fancy like that before, not even close. And the guy was like, "You ain't getting it. You shouldn't have cried wolf." Stuff like that. So I pulled a fork out of the drawer, and I said, "Man, give me one. I'm gonna kill myself." I don't think you will. I stabbed myself in the wrist with a fork, and I tried to open my veins.
Thank you for using GTL.
Okay.
We're gonna have to get a call back.
Yeah. This is, you are seeing the process unfold here. We did not expect this call to come through today, which is why we just kind of jumped on it and scrambled. But yeah, Randy should be able to call us back, hopefully.
Hello. This is a prepaid debit call from
Matthew?
An inmate at the Virginia Department of Corrections, Wallens Ridge State Prison.
To accept this call, press 0. To refuse this call, hang up or press.
All right. We have Randy back. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
I believe the last thing you said was you had stabbed yourself in the wrist with a fork.
Yeah, I tried to open my wrist with a fork. He grabbed a hold of me. He called the police and everything, and I was sent to Dybec, which it's a mental hospital / prison for juveniles. And I did time there. When I'd gotten released, I went to a wilderness program called New Dominion, which is basically like a level 1 road camp is what it was. I went to a foster home when I left there, and I just kept fighting and stealing and, stealing cars and breaking into houses and doing all that stuff and just in and out of juvenile prison. Beaumont, which was Gladiator School, and Hanover, and so on and so forth.
So during that time, how did you, the 1,000+ years, like, what is the reason why you have that much time?
I got out of Beaumont the last time, and I had no direction. I had no purpose. My anger was at all-time high. It's like it's just this black cloud of evil following me around. I had lost my job. Another guy who's, well over 6 foot, 270, 80-some pounds, big boy. We was on a job site one day, and he come over and just started taking my tools. I said, "Man, what do you think you're doing?" He thought I was going to back down and just, kowtow to him, and I don't have no backup or give in me. So me and him got into it, and the guy I was working with, he broke it up and, called my boss and told my boss, and my boss fired me. So I had bought my grandma a stove for Christmas, because she'd really needed the new one. And I couldn't pay for it. So one day I went and I stole a car, and I wound up robbing a store. And when I pulled the gun on the store owner, and I told him to give me his money, he pulled the money out of his wallet and he gave it to me. And I said, "All right, empty the register." So he opened the register up and said, "Man, give me the money." He said, "No." I said, "Look, man, I will kill you if you don't give me that money." He says, "I don't think you will." I shot him once in the chest. He fell on the floor behind the counter, and I leaned over and I shot him twice in the back. And then I walked down the counter, and I walked back up, and I stood over top of the man, and I shot him 6 more times in the back of the head. And I took the money and I hauled ass. Got caught for it, so they gave me for capital murder, armed robbery, gun charges, some B&Es and stolen cars and stuff like that. My sentence came out to 1,214 years without parole.
I have a question. What's more American than a bald eagle? The 4th of July is almost here, and that means a couple of things. Barbecues, pool parties, and last but not least, glizzies. And it just so happens the sponsors of today's show, Manscaped, are making sure all the glizzy gladiators across the nation are groomed for battle on America's birthday. From sea to shining sea, join over 8 million pube patriots worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with our code OPL at manscaped.com. Talk about an American dream, guys. But seriously, the Performance Package 4.0 by Manscaped. There is nothing else that you should be using when it comes to trimming your nether regions and taking care of everything down there. Inside the package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, the Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. This thing has it all. I use these products all the time. The Lawnmower 4.0 is amazing. It lets me get down there, do everything I need to do with no worries of, a nick or a cut or, anything like used to happen, honestly, all the time before I discovered Manscaped. It was not a pretty scene. The trimmer is designed for below the belt, but it has been known to carve out exquisite 4th of July mullets as well. So if you need to use it up top, or I don't know, maybe mullet down there, I don't know how that would look. And for all the diehard patriots who want to rock a dirty stash or goatee by the pool, look no further than Manscaped's brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit, which includes the Beard Hedger trimmer. So you'll be looking like the total American dream. They've got you covered from head to toe, guys. Take your freedom bells to the next level by going to manscaped.com and get 20% off with free shipping with our discount code OPL. Get your independence back this Independence Day and unlock your confidence with Manscaped. Do you remember the feeling when you heard that sentence?
I was numb. Not from the sentence. I was just numb. Period. I was tired of living. I turned to my lawyers and I was like, I wish they'd have just gave me the death penalty instead. At least I'd be dead in a few years. From being in juvenile prison, I knew what adult prison was like. I didn't know how bad, but I did, I had some inkling and understanding of what I was getting myself into. I'd much rather been dead, but it's just, I just took it. It's just like, what else in my life is going to go wrong? Honestly, it was just par for the course for me. It was just something I was used to.
Do you ever think about the guy that you killed?
Yes, I do. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I think about the man every single day, but yeah, I do think about him somewhat often.
What do you usually think?
I usually think about his family. I've never had a chance to speak to them. I certainly have never had a chance to apologize, though I doubt they would give a damn. But from what little bit of understanding I have of their situation, basically their family just completely fell apart after that. And I wonder what would have been if I would have never took that man's life. I wonder what their lives would be right now.
Are these, regrets that you have right now? Have you come to a place where you're just almost at peace, with how everything has turned out and the decisions, and you just feel like all you can do is be a better person? Where are you at now, considering it does seem like you, obviously, if you could go back, would choose not to do the things that you've done?
Oh, absolutely. If I could go back, it definitely wouldn't even come close to doing the things I've done. But I'm pretty sure 100% of the human population would say that. Yes, I do regret it. But it's more along the lines of remorse than it is regret. What can you say about destroying an entire family? It's not like I hurt one person. And that's what I didn't realize back then. I wasn't just hurting one person. I hurt an entire family. Who knows what he would have went on to do? Who knows what he could have accomplished, or maybe he wouldn't have. Maybe he wouldn't have done nothing. Maybe he would have. I don't know. So there's deep remorse that I destroyed a family just because I was angry, just because I had a rough childhood. I had no right to do that. That's what, keeps me awake at night sometimes. That's what makes it hard to get out of bed in the morning. That's what makes it, I'm doing some good now. I've completely turned my life around. I haven't had an institutional charge in 17 years. In a supermax prison, I'm the only one who's ever done that. I'm the only one who's ever even come close to doing that, especially in the state of Virginia. Especially at Red Onion and Wallace Ridge, where, it's so easy to catch a charge. To me, it doesn't matter what good I do. It's never going to outweigh the bad that I've done. And that's the cross I have to bear it. I got to carry that. This is something that's never going to go away. Yeah, I do everything in my power to become a better man, to become a better person. But does it really matter? I took a man's life because he said, "I don't think you will." 5 words, and I committed murder.
I was going to ask if you think that you should be let out at some point.
No. Quite frankly, for what I did, they should take me out back and shoot me. Do I want to get out? Yes. Am I working towards getting out? Yes. I'm doing everything in my power to get out. But do I deserve it? No. That's just my opinion.
Is it a hope that you will eventually get out that keeps you going day to day, or is there a part of you that has truly accepted that you are likely to spend the rest of your life in your current situation?
No, I've never accepted it, because the day that I accept that I'll remain in prison for the rest of my life is the day I give up. It's the day I make someone kill me, or I wind up killing myself. Just because I won't spend the rest of my life in this environment. I won't do it. So the day I lose hope is the day I end my life, one way or another.
And is there an actual chance that you could get out?
Yes, actually, I have a very, 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 very good shot of getting out. I'm in the process of, saving up as much money as I can, to get a lawyer. I've gone through my case, and they violated my Fifth Amendment. At worst, they would have to retry me. And if I get retried, with the right lawyer, I have a good chance of just making a plea deal, and dropping it down to second-degree murder, and, just giving me time served, because I've already done 25 years, and, I haven't had a charge in 17 years. And, I've written children's novels. One is actually published on Amazon. I've had my own podcast. I've helped people. That's the crazy thing about it. I've had people write me and say, they were going to commit suicide until they heard my podcast, and I gave them the strength to go on and fight. I've had people write me and tell me that, listen to my podcast has helped them quit drugs and helped them to quit drinking and saved families and, kept people from committing crimes and doing all kinds of things. So I have a lot going in my favor. To get that. We'll see what happens. But I honestly believe that someday I will give my time back and I will get released from prison.
There's a big debate about rehabilitation in prison. So with all that said, what would you say to anyone listening that thinks no matter what, you shouldn't be released, and that maybe there isn't a chance that you're truly rehabilitated?
I get it. I know prisoners better than anybody else. There's not a person on the street who knows prisoners in prison better than me. I grew up in prison, juvenile and adult. I'm 44 years old. I've spent 33 years of my life incarcerated. I get it. I understand the games that prisoners play. You know, I understand the hustles. I understand the lies and the deceit. I live with it every single day. I get it. I respect it. But I can show you better than I can tell you.
And, you know, I know we don't have much time left, but, you know, can you kind of talk about, you know, where you're at today and also starting your podcast? How are you even able to, you know, record and publish a podcast from, you know, a super max prison? Yeah. And just kind of like what your goal is with the podcast as well.
Well, my goals with the podcast are simple. Just to help. You know, just to give people perspective. You know, I think perspective is the greatest gift we can give ourselves in life. You know, it helps you to see clearly. It helps you to make better choices, better decisions. It gives you greater understanding of the environment that you're in. So I want to try to give as many people as I can perspective. You know, what it's like in here, why you should care. You should care because most people in prison have release dates. Most people in prison are coming home, and you really don't want us coming home the way we currently are. How I started it, I did a documentary when I was at Red Onion called Solitary, a look inside Red Onion State Prison, that aired on HBO. So my buddy Michael Garbett, who's a professor at the University of New South Wales in Australia, he saw it and he was intrigued by something I said. And so he did some research online and he found my full name and my state number and everything. And he signed up on JPay and started writing me. And one thing led to another. We had really good conversations. And we set up a phone number through Skype and everything so I could call him, and we just started talking, and he was asking me questions, and, you know, I would answer to the best of my ability, and he was like, dude, we should really do a podcast. And I was like, what's a podcast? So after he explained it to me, I was like, sure, dude, I'm game. And when I call, he has it somehow set up to where he answers through his laptop, and he records, and we talk and we record it. You know, and then his wife, she edits it, and they put it up online, and people listen to it, believe it or not. And that's still crazy as hell to me.
So this is probably a hard question, but, you know, if you can just kind of narrow down from just your experiences, the remorse you have, the regrets you have, just everything that you've been through to, you know, where you are now, what is the biggest takeaway that you want people to have, you know, like the biggest message that you want to give when they kind of look at, you know, your life and the journey that you've been on?
I don't care what you go through as a child. I don't care how hard your life is. I don't care what the abuse you've taken. I don't care. If you want to make your life better, you got to stand on your own 2 feet and make it better. You have to put the work in. You have to look in a mirror, and you have to list every single bad, wrong, evil thing about you. And you have to accept it, embrace it. Because until you do that, you're never going to change. You're never going to be able to improve your life or make it better. Accept responsibility for your own actions, for your own choices and your own decisions. Yes, I know there's a lot of people out there that's done a lot of bad things to you. If I'm in prison in the environment that I'm in, constantly tested day in and day out, and I've changed my life, I've fixed a lot of things that's wrong in my life. I still got a long ways to go. I'm not there by no stretch of the imagination. But people who knew me back then, who know me today, they don't recognize me. I'm an entirely different person because I never quit on myself. I never gave up on myself, and I faced myself for who and what I was. If you will do the same, you can fix the problems in your life. You can actually get the life you want if you're willing to put the work in for it. You're willing to face yourself, and you're willing to overcome. You do that, and there's nothing that can or will hold you back. You're going to go through hell. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It's the hardest, most toughest, degrading thing you'll ever do. To see yourself for who you really are and to accept it, that's a nightmare. I'm telling you, that's just the way it is. But if you're willing to face that pain, if you're willing to embrace that pain, you can fix it and you can have a life worth living. Even here in prison, Supermax, pretty much all I've ever known, I have a life worth living. And it's because I put the work in. That's the message.
Well, that's amazing, man. I think it's definitely an interesting perspective, and we appreciate you coming on today and taking the time and talking to us. Do you want to let people know where they can find your podcast?
RedOnionRandy.com. That's my website. You can just go on there and find all the information. But I'm on YouTube. I'm on Spotify, Apple, and Google.
Awesome. And yeah, we'll make sure to throw the link in there so that people can find it and hopefully throw some new listeners your way as well.
That would be nice.
Well, thank you so much, man, for the honesty, sharing that journey. And we wish you the best of luck in there. And just good luck with everything.
Yeah. Y'all too. Thank y'all for having me and giving me this chance to get my voice out to your listeners. I appreciate it.
No, of course. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Have a good one.
Well, that is a wild conversation, honestly. I can't imagine sitting in a cell and knowing that you have like 1,200 years to serve.
Yeah.
Like that's wild to think about.
Yeah. That all just happened so fast. Like we
didn't really expect to even have the call, to be honest.
We didn't think it was going to happen. Then the Skype started ringing and it was like when firemen get the alarm and we just scrambled and put it together.
I said email podcast at the beginning of this. Like, I don't even, I was like,
yeah.
I was like, oh shit.
This is like a weird, like almost behind the scenes episode, but it is hard to imagine. And, I obviously we don't agree with the things that he has done in his life, but, we appreciate him coming on and sharing that message and I guess his willingness to change as a person and want to reach others. You can't fault him for that. But wow, it's just jarring to just that sentence, that amount of years.
And also just like the honesty and the thing, 17 years in solitary is that's just, I can't even imagine
it's
that.
Like, that's gotta be like brain scrambling.
I don't know how that's even like possible for a human to just withstand
endure,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. I can't even imagine that, but yeah, I mean, it's fucked, man. The whole thing is fucked. Like it's just it's a crazy perspective, and I never thought that I would be able to talk to someone who like, has done the shit that he's done, and then has also been in solitary for it, and is realistic and like, yeah, of course I want to get out, but I get it if I don't. Like, I don't know if I deserve it. I fucking killed a guy pretty fucking brutally at that over fucking nothing. Like, it's, everybody makes mistakes, doesn't really apply to something like that, Like, it's like you want to become a better person, obviously, and that's kind of like what he was, alluding to, but that is a crazy thing.
It's just the acceptance of it and then just the straightforward honesty of just like recapping the events, because we've talked to people in prison before. We've done a really powerful episode of someone who I guess was framed and in prison that finally got out. And that's one perspective, which is, good to hear when justice is served in that way of someone who doesn't deserve to be in prison. But this is just someone who, there's no denying, there's no sugarcoating the crimes that were committed. But that's, I guess, as real of a conversation as you're going to get in this world. So
yeah,
there
crazy.
you have it.
Crazy. For anyone else that would like to be a guest on our show, don't hesitate to reach out. Our email is oplpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram, TikTok at OPL Podcast. You could head over to patreon.com/OPL show. And thank you guys for supporting and listening. And that is all this week.
See you next time.